Spider-Man 3 is about Peter Parker's journey into darkness as a gooey alien bonds to him as his world crumbles around him. He still does a terrible job of hiding his identity. There's no way it would stay a secret. It starts off with Peter Parker talking about how great his life has become, and how much people love Spider-Man now. And Mary Jane is living her dream of being a Broadway actress. I'm sure it'll all stay that way. Or not. After the play, Peter tries to talk with Harry, but he basically tells him to piss off. Then Harry decides it's a good idea to take some of his father's crazy gas. That night, Peter and Mary Jane are stargazing on a web because I guess they aren't worried about anyone seeing this, and a blob of goo falls from the sky and sticks to his bike. I'm sure that'll be fine. This guy named Flint Marko is running from the police and visits his sick daughter because they need you to feel sorry for him for stealing and maybe killing someone. Sometime later, Peter visits his Aunt May and tells her that he's gonna ask Mary Jane to marry him. Aw, that's sweet. I'm sure it'll work out. Then, just to be a jerk, Harry attacks him and they have this fight where Peter is swinging around without his costume, and I guess no one in the city of 8 million people see this.
Harry! You knew this was coming, Pete!
Why does he act so surprised? How many other people does he know who have access to the Green Goblin stuff? Anyway, eventually Peter sets up a trap that kills Harry. No, seriously, he has to go to the hospital and everything. Meanwhile, Flint is running from the cops again and falls into this particle beam thing.
There's a change in the silicon mass.
Yeah, it's probably a bird. It'll fly away when we fire it up.
Why would you just assume it was a bird and continue with the experiment? Even if you couldn't tell the weight, there are other things that could fall in there. Just go check it out. Since they don't care, they just start whatever this is, and I guess the sand gets infused with his DNA, and he disintegrates. Back at the hospital, Harry's fine, except he lost his short-term memory.
I think he's gonna be fine.
I think so.
Yeah, this isn't gonna backfire at all. Back at the testing facility, whatever that thing was turned everything in there to sand, except Flint's locket for some reason. Seriously though, this CGI still looks really good. Mary Jane visits Peter in his crappy apartment and is upset about a review on her play.
Her small voice didn't carry past the first row.
Then Peter starts talking about how hard being Spider-Man is. Gwen Stacy is in this, and Harry is the Green Goblin? This is gonna end well. Gwen Stacy is having a photo shoot and an out-of-control crane hits the building that she's in, and it just happens to hit the floor below her and she falls. And since this Spider-Man doesn't suck at physics, he's able to catch her safely. And Eddie Brock starts taking his picture, and acting like a douche about it. At the Daily Bugle, Brock and Parker compete for selling Spider-Man pictures, and this annoying douche wins. Mary Jane then tries to go to work, but they replaced her because no one in the back could hear her, even though they should have figured that out before they hired her and she should have been wearing a microphone. Anyway, sometime later, Spider-Man is receiving the key to the city for saving Gwen Stacy, who's the police chief's daughter. And Eddie Brock is there taking pictures of Gwen Stacy because I guess they're dating.
We had coffee, Eddie.
Oh, I guess not. So he goes on stage and lets Gwen pull down his mask and kiss him. First of all, that's a lot of trust for her not to just pull it off and show everyone who he is. Second of all, what a dick. He knows his girlfriend is right there. What the hell, man? At least Sandman comes in and ruins it. He's robbing an armored car, but Spider-Man stops him. The next night, Parker and Mary Jane are having a date, and Peter sets up his proposal. Then this egomaniac starts talking about being Spider-Man again, and Gwen Stacy just so happens to be there and gets all buddy-buddy with Peter since they're lab mates at school or something. So Mary Jane gets pissed and leaves. Well, he ruined that. After that, Peter and Aunt May get called to the police station, and Captain Stacy tells them that Ben's real killer is Flint Marko, since they need to give Peter a reason to absolutely hate him. That night, MJ comes over to comfort him, but he just blows her off. And now it's time for things to get dark. Literally. Because now he has a new suit, which completely won't cause him to freak out at all. Well, Marco's robbing banks again, so Spider-Man goes to stop him, and Eddie happens to be there.
See you, chump. What the hell?
Seriously, what a dick. Anyway, he goes down and basically tells Sandman who he is and then tries to kill him. And basically does.
Good riddance.
What a psycho. So much for him not freaking out. I guess Mary Jane got a new job and calls Harry, not Peter, to hang out, because they need a reason for Peter to hate Harry now. After she leaves, Harry suddenly remembers everything and decides it's a good idea to attack MJ. Man, this movie has so much going on. Anyway, he gets her to get Peter to meet her so she can break up with him. And just to be an asshole, Harry meets him to tell him that he's dating MJ now. Peter then decides screw everything, and we're back to the black suit. He then goes to Harry's house and just kicks his ass. Then, like a psycho, tries to kill him too. Wait, was he walking around with his suit exposed? How did no one see this? I can't believe all of New York doesn't know who he is by now. Whatever, he sees that Brock somehow got a photo of Spider-Man robbing a bank.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
What the hell does that mean? He's probably gonna kill him too. Gothic Parker then goes to the Bugle and confronts, or more like attacks, Brock for faking the picture by doing a crappy Photoshop job. So Brock gets fired. Later on, Dr. Connor calls him to tell him that the piece of symbiote Peter gave him shows tendencies to amplify aggression in his host, because that wasn't blatantly obvious before. We then get this weird montage of Gothic Parker doing this dance thing and being weird. Why does this movie have so much going on? Turns out Sandman isn't dead, he was just wet. How does he still have this locket? I guess Peter's dating Gwen now, because that always works out. And this asshole purposely takes her to the club that Mary Jane works at and creates this huge scene just to be a dick. This makes Gwen feel bad and she leaves. Then he starts a bar fight and just decks Mary Jane. Oh look, his suit's showing again. Now this psychotic asshole feels bad and goes to a church to ditch the black suit. And Eddie just so happens to be there at the same time and asks God for one thing.
I want you to kill Peter Parker.
Because it's his fault that Eddie faked the photo. Peter is trying to take the suit off, but Venom just isn't letting go until the bell starts chiming and then it loosens up because sound hurts him. Eddie hears the commotion and goes to check it out. Then he just stands there while this obviously dangerous thing falls from the top of the tower, so he gets to have the symbiote now. He's swinging around and Sandman stops him and... Holy crap! Venom then proposes an alliance.
I know all about you. Like the fact that Spider-Man won't let you help your poor daughter.
How does he know about that? Peter never knew and Flint never told anyone about her. Anyway, Mary Jane hasn't been captured yet in this movie, so time for that to happen. Peter sees a news story about it, so it's time for the old suit to come back out. Then he goes to Harry's house to ask him for help, and good God, he got messed up. Anyway, Harry tells him no and to leave.
The night your father died, I cleaned his wound. The blade that pierced his body came from his glider.
Why the hell is he just now telling him this? Do you know how much crap he put everyone through by not mentioning this a lot earlier? Anyway, Spider-Man does the whole try to save Mary Jane thing while Eddie and his scary Venom face try to stop him. Oh look, he took his mask off again.
You made me lose my girl. Now I'm gonna make you lose yours.
You two had one date, you douchebag. Oh yeah, Giant Sandman is there too. And they just beat the crap out of Spider-Man, but then Gobby Jr. comes in and saves him. Oh look, his face is showing again. While they're all fighting, Mary Jane falls and Spider-Man catches her. She's just lucky she's not Gwen Stacy. Then Spider-Man and Venom get to have a private fight.
Never wound what you can't kill.
I never got what the point of him having this scary Venom face is if he's just gonna pull it back every time he talks. Harry tries to save him but just gets knocked out, which makes Peter realize the symbiote is vulnerable to sound. Venom is about to kill Spider-Man, but then Harry comes in and saves him and gets stabbed by his own glider. Gee, that sounds familiar. Spider-Man then creates a sound circle around Venom and rips Eddie out of it. And since Sam Raimi hates Venom and was forced to put him in this movie, Peter blows him and Eddie up with a pumpkin bomb. Why are there no police helicopters or anything here? Anyway, Sandman shows back up, so now he knows who Spider-Man is, and explains that killing his uncle was an accident and he was just trying to get money for his daughter's medical treatment. So Peter forgives him and then he goes off to, like, I don't know, another universe or something. Then Harry dies and I guess Peter and Mary Jane are dating again. So Sony saw Spider-Man with his now dead best friend and went, yep, it's reboot time. I enjoy this movie, but it's definitely the worst of the Sam Raimi trilogy. I feel like there was too much going on just for one movie, although they did consider splitting it into 2 movies at one point. There's just too many villains and they crammed the whole love triangle thing in there and I don't know why. I feel like they could have done Peter's relationship issues arc without Gwen Stacy, but I guess they put her in there for the comic book fans. They could have benefited from leaving at least one villain out. They didn't really need Sandman. They could have just left Ben Stiller as the guy from the first movie and did more with Harry as the new Goblin and have the symbiote amplify Peter's anger towards him and got rid of the suit sooner and had Eddie be Venom more. The acting is about on par as the first 2 movies. Tobey Maguire does a great job as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I like how he does this transition from the same old Spider-Man to a darker version who just wants to get revenge on those who wronged him, then back to the same old Spider-Man again. He does a really good job of it, but I have no idea why they had that mantra in the middle where he does that weird dance. Thomas Church is great as Flint Marko. You can tell he cares for his daughter and doesn't really want to do the things he's doing. Topher Grace is alright as Eddie Brock and Venom. He's good at portraying Eddie's douchey personality and how he thinks he's better than everyone else. I don't really like him as Venom though. He's not very good at being menacing, and I don't get why they had Venom pull his face back every time he talked. The visual effects hold up pretty well for the most part, but there are times where it looks pretty bad. Mostly when Peter is swinging around without his suit, his face just doesn't look right. The CGI for Sandman is really good. They did a great job animating the individual grains and making it look realistic. Well, by the end of this trilogy, basically everyone he meets ends up knowing he's Spider-Man. I'm sure that won't cause problems in like 15 years. Don't forget to do the YouTube stuff, and thanks for watching.